Live. Welcome, everybody. I have the mispleasure of talking to Kyle again, and welcome to the Agency Hustle podcast. And we're talking to agency owners, freelancers, any digital entrepreneurs that want to get real and practical insights into starting and growing their online business. So,
And don't
welcome,
forget,
Kyle.
there's one more important guest. Your mom is also listening because that's the only one who listens to this
Four,
podcast. So
14 listens. 14
yeah,
listens so far for my mom, probably hitting
yeah,
refresh.
yeah. I like
Yeah,
it. I like it.
it's all good.
Um,
We
but
got we
yeah,
gotta get views from somewhere.
yeah. Look, sadly, we need to do this again. So let's just get it over with.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about something interesting. Well, obviously after the call, I'll be talking about, you know, something with you personally on a different level, but I don't want to
Okay.
share that. Yeah, it's going to be a bit
Okay.
too emotional for you. Um,
That's. I want to say I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not.
okay, how to start an agency or a freelancing business? It sounds like quite a simple question, but obviously that's the foundational question that one needs to wrestle with right from the start, right? So yeah, give us the answer. Give us the answer. How do you start an agency or
Quick
freelancing business?
answer. Well, so you know what I wanna do first. I get this question a lot on social media. It's probably one of the sort of more common ones. Like, how do I get started? How do I find the first few initial clients and stuff like that? And I just want to like pre-qualify like everything we're saying here. Obviously, you know, I want to say we're a little bit biased maybe because we've been doing this for a while, and also we're pretty fortunate, right? Like we live in countries that are, have this sort of like developed structure for starting this type of stuff, and we have sort of like some of the things that may seem easy to us may not be easy for people that are maybe in different parts of the world and so forth. And so I just wanted to like mention that, like some of the things that we talked about, sometimes we should take that into consideration as well when we're talking about this stuff.
Oh my word. Okay, so I saw you looking at your notes while you were looking down. I also made some notes. Then if you can see it, there
It's
we go.
blurry. Yeah. Okay.
Can you see it?
Okay. Yeah, we can see it. Those are some good
There
notes,
we
good
go.
quality. Did ChatGPT
Yeah.
come up with that?
Yeah, I can't write properly, you know. I had to ask ChatGPT to
I
print
can
it.
see.
Uh,
I can see that.
but yeah, look, I think the qualifying side, I mean, it also it in a way reminds you of like Jordan Peterson. Do you watch him? Some of his stuff.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
He's like, what do you believe? Or what do you mean by believe? What do you mean by you? What do you mean by so
Yeah,
like
totally.
so like we need to clarify a few terms. Maybe like that. I think look, maybe I'll just start off by saying um, there are two things that people can do. Okay, you can either have a hobby freelancing business, meaning you're just helping anyone and you don't really care, you're not getting paid for it. But the whole goal of freelancing is to have a business. What does that mean? You need paying clients, you know? So I think I want to echo the foundational side of like, if you are thinking you're going to know everything, regardless of what we discuss now for the next, sadly, the next like 10 to 20 minutes, but, um, uh, regardless of what we discuss, like there comes a point when you're going to have to act on what you know, and there's going to be a massive gap there. And you're just going to have to sort of take a leap of faith and sort of just learn as you go, So I think we need to preface that because a lot of people tend to be like, dot their I's, cross their T's. And it's not saying that that is not important. But the thing is, if you're overthinking about starting and thinking, oh, all of these different things I need, what am I going to do? And eventually that becomes so overwhelming that you actually just don't start. So I want to preface it by that. What would the man say to that? What would you add on to that?
Yeah. 100%. Like, I mean, don't overthink it. I think sometimes it's like the people that start these ventures and businesses earlier in their life, like sometimes they don't know what they don't know, so they skip over some of these parts, and they don't suffer from that, like overthinking it, and oh, I have to have this in place and that in place or whatever in order to get started. They just kind of start and learn as they go, and I think that's really important because yeah, you could be planning for starting something like this for months and not really get anywhere. But like you said, if you don't have paying customers, you just have a hobby, right? It's not a business. So you need to, that should be the first focus, like, getting a few of the clients, that are willing to pay for whatever your service is, and starting from there, and all of the other things that, we can talk about, like starting a company, LLC, website, logo, all that stuff,
Mm,
that can really take a long time to get off the ground, and it's something that you can do later as well.
yeah. So maybe let's talk about that like real quick, because a lot of people have that in mind when they ask the question, how do I start freelancing? They think like, oh, I need a business, oh, I need a website, oh, I need business cards, whatever, the list goes on. So maybe let's start real quick with the structure side of things. So on like the
Mhm.
business setup, LLC, can you do it in your personal name? Do you need a business? Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I always recommend for people to get a business sort of, officially sort of open and stuff. It provides you with a few protections and a few benefits as well from a tax perspective. I know that it's an expense for a lot of people when they're starting out. Do you absolutely need an LLC, to get started? No, you don't. It's something you can do later, when you have a few clients as well. So it's definitely not something that's required off the from the start. But I usually recommend it. It's the same as the website and all that stuff. Like you don't need to kind of overthink it. But and the main part here is, like you said, to get going. But what do you think about the whole like company, starting a company piece and all that other stuff?
Mm. Yeah, look, I don't really like to agree with what you say, but I do agree. Uh, uh,
Once in a while,
um,
once in a while, we'll
yeah,
agree.
yeah, yeah. So look, I think how you said it is like, is it a requirement? No. Is it beneficial? Yes. However, there is a small disclaimer with that. It also depends on the country you're in. So, for example, I know in Europe and some countries in Europe, the red tape and bureaucracy is actually just crazy. So, take what we're saying with a grain of salt, because it does depend. And generally, you need to confirm it with an accountant or something like that. But in terms of principles, is it good to get a business, for tax write-offs and structure-wise and liability purposes? Yes. Do you need it to start, meaning getting your first one or two or three clients? The answer is probably not, and I'll say that advisedly, probably not. Um, and I mean, you can, for example, get started right now on like freelancing platforms or something. You can get a little payment. Once you've got that 500, 300, or 500 or 1,000, whatever it is, the setup cost, use that to reinvest to get, a business setup. I think that's sort of my 2 cents on that topic. I don't know if you have anything more to wrap up on that.
Yeah, no. No, again, I mean, I kind of started the whole conversation with kind of saying that, we're privileged and all that stuff, which we are, I understand that. But at the same time, there's a huge opportunity as well. Now you can do this stuff with globalization and everything, and like you can start one of these businesses from wherever really, and seek out clients in different areas of the globe, right? So it does open up a lot of opportunities as well that you wouldn't have had maybe 20 years ago or whatever when I started. I started
Mm,
before Kyle was even born.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I have a lot more experience. But yeah, it's
Actually, even
definitely
even before even before my mom was born. Yeah.
before the internet was invented. It looked a lot different in those days.
Yeah. Okay, so then like next thing would be okay, so Oh, by the way, if someone's interested, I actually got like quite technical, like if you're in Canada, if you're in the UK, if you're in the US. I can't remember the exact blog post, but something like if you have to say like how to create a freelancing business or how to set up a freelancing company, just put the word client manager, and there's a blog article on it. It's quite an in-depth one. And that I'm not just plugging it, it's genuinely a helpful resource. You can even check it out yourself. It's actually really good.
I don't think anybody will be checking that out,
Yeah,
but okay.
yeah. Just for those interested. Um, yeah, and
So
then
where oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
No, you just keep rambling, so I just wasn't sure if I thought you were done, but you go ahead.
Okay, so now sort of like another segment to the starting side is the overwhelming side of what does someone sell? Do they have to niche down to start? Do they need a website? Yeah, sort of a bundled question, but
Mhm.
what do you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of niching down and finding an area that you're passionate about and knowledgeable in that you can offer clients. I think one of the big misconceptions from new people is typically that, they think they would be more successful if they do everything or if they offer everything. And not only is it harder to market sort of that whole approach of like offering everything, but also, um, it's harder to kind of build up expertise if you're offering like all the services under the sun. So it's always better to kind of pick a service, something that you're passionate about, something that you're knowledgeable in, and just kind of focus on offering that, finding a few clients in that specific niche. But like lots of people when they get started, they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna lose out on clients if I niche down." But actually, the opposite is probably true. You should niche down as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I think we'll and well, you mentioned earlier we're going to do like a niching down, dedicated niching down podcast, and I
Hmm.
think I think we'll delve into that a little bit more. But just my 80/20 answer is, I agree. I think that if this is a barrier to entry for you, meaning you are overthinking it, you're a bit overwhelmed, you think like, what niche do I choose, what service, all that stuff. My advice is just start out with something to almost anyone, whatever you know, and then get some experience, and or maybe you get it from interest or whatever, or potential, that you do in the future, and then you niche down, a little bit further from there. Don't let this be, a hurdle to start.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting and difficult when you're starting out because you don't want to pick the wrong niche either, right? And so sometimes it's a little bit tough if you don't have a lot of clients or you don't have a big portfolio to decide on
Yeah,
like what's
yeah.
worth niching down.
Although, although I think let's pause that because that's actually a very interesting point to make. What about making the wrong niche and all that stuff? So
Hmm.
let's pause that one for the
Leave
next
that for
episode.
the episode 3 in 2026.
Yeah, exactly. Because man, seeing your face
It's
so
like
often, I don't know what's happening.
twice this month from
Yeah,
having PTSD
no wonder I can't
already.
sleep at night.
Yeah, no wonder. Yeah, no doubt. So what do
um,
you think about what's the best way to find your first few clients? How do you go about? I know that's another sort of big one
yeah.
for people that that's the one they struggle with probably the most. Not even picking
Mm.
a niche or starting a business and what I was like, how do I find my first few clients, right, to get going?
Yeah, I think what we should do is we should give like a quick little snippet on that, but then we're gonna definitely make like a dedicated episode on like getting your first client and scaling and all that stuff, because I think we can go quite deep in that. But in general, my thoughts are there are a few different ways to get your first client. But before I answer that, it's a question of, do you need a website to get started for clients? And my perspective is no, but it is beneficial. So can you get a client without a website? Yes, but it's almost like a baker, or put it this way, it's almost like listening to a fat nutritionist. You know, it's like it's like uh, 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 you're selling something that you yourself are not doing, so it doesn't make sense to me. And nowadays it's so easy to actually get a website. Even if you just have a one-page website, it's at least something. So I don't think there should be an excuse not to have one. I think it's more beneficial than not. I'll leave it at that. Now, in terms of the client side, how do you get your first few clients? So obviously there's a lot of different ways. In general, I think it's friends and family. Just first of all, letting them know, like, hey, I'm starting a web design agency or marketing agency or an AI automation agency or whatever. Can I help you? Or I noticed that you're selling this, a family member. Hey, maybe I can redesign your website. Or by the way, did you know that you can automate this process with AI? Or whatever. Try and find the need and present yourself as the service provider, instead of saying like, hey, I make websites, let me know if you're interested. Rather be like, take it a bit step further to be like, hey, I noticed you selling so and so something on the side, can I create a website for you or something? I think in our circles we probably know at least one or two people. That could be a starting point, and you would actually do that for free or for a low price, which pricing is another big topic, and I'm sure we'll discuss it in a future episode. Friends, family. And then in the more long-term approaches, you can look at freelancing platforms, like Fiverr, Upwork. Another big important one now that's growing quite a lot is called Contra, Contra. That's gaining some steam. And there's another one that I just went blank on. Anyway, there's a few, right? I would say those are good starting points just to get your first few initial clients. Obviously, there's long-term ways like SEO, sort of like upsells on existing clients, ads, outreach, all of that stuff is social media, blah blah blah. But yeah, that's my ramble. What would you say? What would you say to that?
I mean, if it's interesting that you would mention friends and family because you don't have any friends. So I'm curious how that would work for you. Like if you were starting out as a
Oh,
strategist,
that's classic.
but
That's classic.
it's it's actually how I got started with my first few is through friends and family, just kind of people that I knew had businesses or people that were looking for services, in that space. I mean, honestly, when I started my company in 2007, none of these platforms existed, right? Like Upwork and Fiverr and all those. I would have probably utilized them, I'm sure. But, in those days, we did like, door knocking and calling people. So we did a lot of cold calls and stuff like that. And, but, you only need a few, probably like, I don't know what you would say, but like maybe 5 to 10 clients to get going. And then, in the meantime, what you're doing is probably getting referrals. If you're doing good quality work, you're probably going to get referrals, and then you can kind of sprinkle in some of those other strategies that you talked about in order to bring in more clients. So yeah, so I think there's a lot of different ways. In fact, I'm going to do a plug for the book um, that I co-wrote um, called ClientBytes. So if you just Google ClientBytes, BYTES, you'll get the book on Gumroad. There's like, I think about 40 strategies that we have in there that, you can use any one of those really to get started. And they're all kind of like vetted, and they all have like examples of how other people have done it. Sadly, even Kyle is featured in that book. So take his advice with a grain of salt, but there's some really good advice in there. So you can definitely, it's definitely possible. I know it seems like an impossible task when you're getting started, but you just need a little bit of traction. You need to get your first 5 clients or so, and then you're going to start getting referrals. You're going to start like building up your portfolio and that type of stuff. So definitely check that out for sure.
Okay, look, we made an agreement that when we doing this podcast, which we didn't even really discuss properly, but anyway, we're making an agreement now. We can't lie, okay? So you don't say that it's a good book. The reality is it's got a 1 star out of like 57 reviews, and there's a reason it's got a 1 star. And the review, you paid me
5 out of 5.
$13 for the
5 out.
review. Don't forget that.
And you still give me a 1 star?
No, look, it's actually pretty good. I will say that. I think it's actually so good that you should give everyone 100% off coupon.
Whoever listens? And whoever listens and, hears this bit, reach out to me and I'll give you a coupon. How's that?
Wow, that's impressive. I didn't know you were that weak.
Well, let's see if anybody listens other than my mom.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that'll actually be quite interesting. You were like, Mom, come on. Oh, classic.
Funny.
Um, okay, cool. Is there anything else? Because I see we're 30 seconds over, and this is just wasting both of our times now.
Everybody's time, and the listeners.
Yeah.
I agree. There's so much. I mean, to there's a lot, like, obviously, to cover on this topic. I would say that, follow Kyle and myself on Twitter. What's your
Or just
handle,
me.
Kyle,
Yeah.
on Twitter? It's Kyle or at Kyle
Uh,
Pringle, at Kyle Pringle.
yeah, I don't know. Man, yeah. Just say Carl Prinsloo. Just like look there. It should be there.
Look you up. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe we could put it in the. I could put it in the episode on the website. People can follow it. I think actually it's already on the website, so they can find us on there
Okay,
because we
cool.
share a lot of stuff about finding clients, getting started, that type of stuff. So there's
Yeah.
lots of good resources online. The main point that I want to leave everybody with is, like, just get started and don't overthink it. Basically,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
how I would summarize it.
100%. I agree.
How about you? Any parting wisdom from Kyle?
Yeah, look, the wisdom comes and goes, but look, I think I mean, I'll sort of rephrase what you said, and it's just more like start with what you know and learn as you go, you know. So don't overthink it. Procrastination is a killer, and in this case, it's not a good thing. You know, all freelancing is you've got a service, you're selling a service, you're getting paid for it. Boom, done. You know, so don't overcomplicate it. What you start out with is not necessarily what you're going to end up with. I mean, most of the time, people pivot, people change, and all these other things. So don't think you're going to be settled on it. Don't think you can't change. Don't think you can't adapt. The main thing is just going from 0 to 1. You know, don't be stuck in 0 so long, overthinking, and eventually you're going to end up so stressed and so looking old. You're going to look exactly like Nat. So don't do that.
Don't do it. It's not worth it, guys. All right, perfect. We'll leave it there. We'll leave it there. I will see you, Kyle, unfortunately, sometime next month.
I can't wait.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Cool.
Thanks. Talk to you later.
Cool. Cheers.